Welcome to the Design and Prosper podcast, episode 141. In today's episode, we are talking all things client meetings. We're going to be sharing our best tips for running meetings so that they go smoothly and easily, and importantly, how to handle those nerves. Hey, I'm Kris.
And I'm Donna. Welcome into this beautiful space where we have open and honest conversations about running a graphic design business.
We'd love to help you throw imposter syndrome to the curb and position yourself as a high-end graphic designer.
Yes, and each week we'll share empowering advice, practical tips, and strategies to help you thrive in business. We are so happy you're here.
Welcome, everybody.
Hello. Yes, welcome, everybody. So today we are talking all about managing client meetings.
Yes, meetings are really the foundation for forming those long-term relationships with clients that we always talk about, how important it is to have beautiful long-term relationships. It's really the foundation for success in a design business, those long-term relationships, and meetings are all about it.
Absolutely. The meetings are where we really get to know each other, and they are really crucial for helping you uncover the best solutions for your clients. They're crucial for you to gain an understanding and insight into your client's personality. They're so important, and they're such a big part of the day-to-day in a design business. And we know there are a lot of you designers out there who avoid them.
Who would rather not have them.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. And we're here to say, I'm sorry, we're sorry, but you've got to do the meetings.
Yeah.
Well, that's our opinion anyway. We've just found that it really helps to elevate the client relationship. And we're not talking about wasting time and having lots of unnecessary meetings and having long meetings that just make everybody feel tired. But the reality is, if you want a successful design business, getting meetings right is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have been inside those meetings where you are wondering what on earth you are doing in there.
Yeah.
Why have I allowed this whole hour of my life to be just sucked away? We cannot stand that. We are all about powerful, informed, strategic meetings that have an objective. You meet that objective, you go in, you get out. We're really passionate about not wasting anyone's time.
Yeah. So we've got lots to cover today. We're going to run through all the different types of meetings, and we've actually got 6. And we didn't know before putting this together that there are actually 6 types of meetings that we recommend. There's probably more, but
yeah, 6 essential. These are the ones
meetings. Yes. Who knew that there would be so many meetings? But we'll give you our best tips for running meetings, tips for virtual meetings, tips for the prep before meetings, dealing with those scary nerves that come up, and just general efficiencies with meetings as well.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's dive in. So some general tips. We've got some general tips for all the meetings.
Yes.
Okay. So the first one is to be in charge of the meeting. You are the lead. You are the guide. You are in control of that agenda.
Yeah.
And although that might sound a bit scary, taking control of timeframes and the direction a meeting heads in, it really is your job to do that if you want to get in and get out of that meeting with the information that you are seeking from that meeting. So be in charge. The only way you're going to get it is if you are actually in control.
Yeah, and that might feel a little intimidating to some of you, especially when you've got a client who is quite dominating, or maybe you've got a real talker of a client and meetings just go on, or they just go off in a different direction, or they go rogue. But it's about you just calmly and patiently just bringing things back under control, and even like from the beginning of the meeting, stating what's going to happen. You're stating the agenda and you're stating how long it's going to go for. So, for example, you could say something like, okay, so we've got 30 minutes and the aim of the meeting is to, and then step it out for them.
Perfect. That is great advice. That's the top of a meeting. Every top of meeting, that's the pro tip, is to set it out. Tell the client how long you've got, how long they have got, how long you have got, and then say what's going to happen in the meeting. And because you can always come back to it. That's your frame of reference. That's your client's frame of reference for the meeting. And when they do go rogue and you are politely steering them back, it's really beautiful for you to have set it out from the get-go, because you can say, as mentioned, we've got 30 minutes, so we'll come back to that, or we'll set another meeting for that, or we'll talk about that in another way, whatever. Use whatever tools that you have, or whatever processes that you have within your business to steer them back to the agenda for the meeting.
Yeah, and you can acknowledge them. Like, it's all about relationship building, right? So you can absolutely acknowledge and say, oh, that's such a great point. Let's make a note of that and we'll discuss that at a later date, depending on what it is. Or maybe you could pop that extra information into the client portal. Just make sure that they feel acknowledged and they feel heard, but it's really important to rein them back in, pull them back into the focus of the meeting.
Yep, I love that. That's a really great tip right there. Any meeting you are in, practice really intentional listening. Yeah. Your listening skills need to be next level. So when you do hear something that is a little bit off topic or off agenda, you can actually then direct them to the right place to go. You are making a note of this thing that they have brought up, and it's important to them. They've mentioned it, but now's not the time. There's a time and place, people. Now's not the time. So you've heard it, you've made a note, you've given them another direction, or at the very least, you've made a note. So clients love to be seen and heard.
Oh, they do. I love that. So when you're thinking about a meeting structure, any meeting, and you're feeling nervous about it, and we're going to get into nerves a little bit later and what to do about them, but try and remember that you're just asking questions.
Yeah.
You're just asking some questions. That's really your role as designer, is to ask questions. You hear, you absorb, you listen, and then you ask another question.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is that, remember, if it's a very first time meeting, they have set the meeting. They have accepted the meeting to meet with you. They want to meet with you.
Yeah.
One of the things that Kris and I love to say is, don't forget, you are the prize, right? I think we forget that and we go in with all these nerves, but people want to meet with you. They want to hear what you have to say, especially in those first time meetings where they're working out whether or not to work with you. Mm-hmm. Just remember, they've sought you out. They've agreed to meet with you. So you're already ahead of the game right there, because they've said, yes, I'd love to meet with you.
Yeah, that's right. And just on that, and this is a little bit of a let's get out ahead of it kind of point, Don said they've made the meeting with you. They already really want to work with you. They're interested, right? And that's what we have to get into the mindset of. But another thing to help with that is to make sure that you are active somehow on socials, or that you've got some sort of video presence. Maybe it's on your website. Maybe it says the thank you page after they book in the call. Maybe it's that you have been doing reels, or you've been getting on stories and they're seeing your face and they're hearing your voice, because then that makes it all so much more familiar. There's already a level of warmth there. They already feel like they know you.
I love how Kris has said, whether it be on your website or on your socials, that it is video. So they're actually listening to you have a conversation. We love that idea of them actually getting to know you a little bit. That connection is really, really powerful.
Yeah, they'll feel like they already trust you, you know? It's even really lovely for long-term clients as well. They love, love, love to see you show up on social, even if it's not video, even if it's like you've got a regular newsletter that's going out and you're landing in their inbox and the way that you speak is there, and it's just a lovely extra touch point. And like we always say this, don't we, Don, where our most popular posts, and this will be the case for you as well, are the ones where your head is on them.
Yes.
Or you have a video of yourself.
Yeah.
They're the ones that had the most engagement, the most likes. It's a no-brainer.
It's the face, right? The face behind the business, and they're getting to know the person. Again, it's that connection point. We're building connections with our potential clients and our existing clients, and it's really important that you do that in a really intentional way.
Yeah. I just want to circle back to what we were talking about before, because I'm going to lose it. Me and my brain. I'm going to lose it unless I say it right now. But with that active listening skill, it is a skill that needs to be learned, but it's just something to be really mindful of and aware of. But I like to think of it like, if you look at a transcript of the meeting afterwards, you would be able to see that they're doing most of the talking. Yes. And then you don't actually talk that much. It's kind of like when you go to the doctors and they're just asking lots of questions, but they're not trying to justify themselves. The doctor's not trying to go, oh my God, I'm so amazing. I went to study to be a doctor for like this many years and I did all this. They're just asking questions and then they prescribe.
Yes.
So that's kind of the role that you need to take on as well. Just asking questions, and then so you don't have to do a lot of talking. So if you're feeling nervous about meetings, think about that as well. Like, they're going to be doing all the talking.
Yeah, absolutely. And allow that to happen. Allow the space for that. Often we don't allow space for that, and we fill the space, we fill the space, we fill the space. But if you just ask a question and then quietly just wait for the answers to come, and they'll percolate. So yeah.
I'm not very good with dead air, it's called in radio terms. It's dead air back in the day, and probably still now. If there's something that goes wrong in radio land and there's no sound coming out, it's like a terrible thing, right? And you don't want any gaps in it. And I think with all these Zoom meetings that we have, there is a lag and there is a delay. And sometimes we think, oh my goodness, there's quiet, there's a pause. Oh no, I have to feel it. So we get a little bit sort of like that verbal diarrhea thing happens. So just be mindful of that too, that sometimes you'll be dealing with a lag. It's okay. It's okay to have a little silence and a little pause.
Yeah, the pauses are great. They help with composure. And for me, when people are able to pause, it shows confidence.
Yeah.
They're really confident in what they're saying. So allow for that. And I know we're all going to get caught up in the verbal diarrhea. Nerves will get the better of us. We've all done it. We've all been there. But it's a skill. So just start to pay attention to how often you can stop talking and you can actually just listen.
Yeah. So a little bit of meeting prep before your meetings, particularly before first meetings. So what you want to do is you want to set your intention for how you want the meeting to unfold. So even like fast forward to 1 hour in advance and think what you're going to feel like when you hop off that call, and visualize it and think about it in present tense. Like, I feel amazing. That was such a wonderful meeting. They're so excited. If it was a first call, they're going to sign. They've said yes to what I'm offering. They're so excited about receiving my proposal. So start to get your head around how you want to feel when that call is finished.
Yeah, I love that. And take it one step further and actually have the answers to the key questions be clear on that. So they'll have said that they'll have answered this question, I'll know this thing, and I'll know that thing. So you're very, very clear from the get-go the information you are wanting to extract from this meeting.
Yeah.
So that by the end of it, you're like, oh, I didn't get that bit of information, or I didn't get that bit of information. That gives you another point to remind you, oh, that's right, I need that little bit of information. But yeah, be really clear on the feeling and the information that you require.
Yeah, what do you want to get out of this meeting?
Yeah.
Also for first meetings, so you most likely have received a little bit of information about this client if they filled out a form when they booked in the meeting. And we suggest that you do a little bit of hunting and gathering online. So you might have their website, you might have their socials. So you go off and just do your due diligence, start to feel out this company. Like, what sort of business are they? Do I want to work with them?
I love that question, Kris. Do I want to work with them? You don't have to say yes to the next meeting if you don't want to. That might be enough of a qualifier. They've filled in that intake form, you've checked them out, you've done a little bit of stalking, not in a creepy way, in a discerning way, where you've learned, okay, these are not my people. This is not the direction my business is going in. We're out of alignment for whatever reason, personal to your business. Then you can actually say, hey, thank you for reaching out to me, but at this time, I'm not taking my business in that direction at the moment. And then maybe offer them another direction or wish them well or whatever. You don't even have to waste one more minute of your time and have that initial meeting if they're not a match. But the other side of that is there might be some red flags and you might be unsure about it. And then inside the meeting, your intention might be to get to the bottom of, is that the direction they're going in? Are they open to change? Are you going to be a part of that change, etc.? And you can validate your gut feel of red flags and say farewell after that first meeting. Or you can go, okay, I can see that you are actually ready to take your business to that next level and I can help you do it.
Yeah. But it really helps to be prepared before you actually start the meeting, and you don't have to just fly by the seat of your pants so much.
Yes.
Because there might be some extra intel that you want. Now, in the Academy, we do have the questions that we recommend to put on an initial touch point form. So the form that they fill in when they book in a meeting. We also have the questions that we recommend that you have in this first meeting, like the first client meetings. But once you get the answers to those first questions that they've answered on the form, you might have some extra questions that aren't part of your normal process because you're like, I need to clarify this. I need to understand. So follow your curiosities a little bit as well, but have those sort of mapped out beforehand so that the whole meeting doesn't go a little bit rogue and go off track. You don't want it to go off track.
I love that. And one more final thing before we finish up with meeting prep is to allow yourself space before the meetings. You might only get to do that little bit of due diligence in the 15 minutes prior to the meeting, whatever it is. Allow yourself some space to be prepared. Allow extra space to be grounded. Really get into your seat, get into your space. Make sure that if it's a Zoom meeting, that your lighting is right, that your computer's on power. We have a bit of a checklist for our meetings. We're powered up. We've checked our camera. We've checked the lighting. We're in frame. All of those things, because any one of those little things, when they're out, it throws you like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, look what they can see. They can see the washing in the background, or, oh no, look at the lighting. I'm in complete shadow. And I've just moved house fairly recently. And the very first Zoom session that I had, I thought I'd set myself up in a good spot. I was rushed. I wasn't prepared. I sat down and I was in complete shadow, and it threw me. It threw me. So really do yourself a favor and prep your space, get everything right, get all your ducks lined up.
Yeah.
So that you don't have anything throwing you a little curveball.
Yeah. Always allow buffer time before a meeting and after a meeting as well. Don't sort of book yourself back to back all throughout the day.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, because I know that we encourage designers to batch meetings on certain days so that you're not kind of scattered by them all the time and you don't have to be all the hair done and whatever you like to do. You could be in your track pants and sweater and you don't have to worry every single day of the week about meetings, but just make sure you're not really overcrowding your meetings as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Great tip.
So we've got some tips for virtual meetings, which Donna just alluded to some of them then, but we've got some more tips. So we want to make the most out of the technology. So we use Zoom. That's our experience. There's so many others that you can use it. We're not saying you have to use Zoom. We're probably only using Zoom because we're used to it and we're comfortable with it. And but the principles will apply to any other platform that you're using. So the first thing that we recommend is if you don't have a lot of experience hosting meetings, now we're specifically saying hosting, you might have turned up to lots of Zoom meetings in your lifetime, but hosting is different. So we want you to practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Do a test run. Grab a friend, family member, like legitimately do a full test run where you send them the link invite. You do it as if they were a client. You get them to show up. Definitely try and get them to be not even in the same house if you can. If not, fair enough. If it's families, make sure they're off in a different room. But go through the whole process, not just setting up the Zoom to Zoom, but the whole process of how you would actually send out an email link, an automated reminder, what does that look like? All the steps that a client would go through, get your test person to go through that as well, just so that you can really see how it unfolds.
And also practice things like sharing your screen as well, because that can throw you in a first-time situation, or you've got to make sure that you're sharing the right part of your screen. You're not sharing sensitive information.
Tidy
make sure
up.
That you clear everything out. You close one tab your tabs. We love the one tab extension. If you haven't heard us talk about that before, it is such a lifesaver. It's like the best extension ever for Google Chrome.
Love it. Love it.
So tidy everything up and just make sure that you're sharing the right thing. Really important. You don't want to be sharing sensitive information by accident. So Don mentioned automated reminders. That's really important. So all the booking schedulers have this facility. I'm pretty sure they all would.
Surely.
Surely.
Yeah.
So we like to do, so they get their confirmation email and then they get a 24-hour reminder and then they get a 1 or 2 hour reminder beforehand so that everybody's on board and that they're not going to forget and you're not going to forget. So you will be CC'd in on those as well. That's how it usually works. So very, very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you are CC'd. I'm sure it's in the setup, but you want a reminder as well. You want to know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, so just with some things like setting up your camera properly and setting up the best location. So you want to set up your camera a little bit higher than you think you would for the best kind of viewpoint. So if you've got a stand or a sit to stand type of desk, that's ideal. Or you've got an extra stand that your monitor can sit on. Sometimes even a stack of books will work, but you just might need to raise it up a little bit higher, depending on the height of your monitor, depending on where your camera is situated. Just make sure you get that all beautifully
lovely
situated.
angle. Do you know what? The good old ironing board comes in handy as well.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
It can be the perfect height.
It really can.
Yeah, be resourceful, because it's all about how you're coming across to the client. They can't see that. They can't see the smoke and mirrors
No.
that's going on in the background.
We have used cat scratching posts. We've used all sorts of things. Look, it's just about getting the best lighting. Sometimes we've got to move around the house to get the best lighting, and usually the best lighting is facing a window. If you don't have natural light, or if it's early in the morning or late at night or whatever, hopefully it's within hours that are good for you. But sometimes you'll need a ring light, and they're not expensive. You can just get a little ring light, and it makes all the world of difference.
Oh, absolutely. It makes such a difference. Now, if you have a home office, you've got the luxury of moving around to all the windows. If you've got a studio, you might not have that benefit of moving around a studio so much.
No.
It might be limited with windows. So that's where a ring light is going to come into its own. And we really recommend finding that ideal spot for certain times of the day. And Kris mentioned before that we recommend designers batch their meeting times. And if you do that, then you know, okay, I'm going to batch my meeting times. I'm going to batch them in the morning, or I'm going to batch them in the afternoon. Get out ahead of it. Check out the lighting. See where it's going to be best for that batched time. Because if you are sitting down and having, say, 3 meetings, like we said, not back to back, make sure you have a 15-minute buffer so that you can stretch, have a loo break, drink, move, all the things. And it also just absorb the information that you've just received from that particular client. But still in all, you'll be in one spot for a while. Just make sure you know what's happening with the light over that duration of time.
Yeah.
Not just for that hour, but over that period.
If the sun's setting, you're in trouble.
You're in trouble. Get that ring light out. Yeah.
Also, set up your background. You just don't want it to be distracting and overly messy. And obviously, you don't want to reveal your whole life with washing hanging in the background or whatever, and a pair of underpants hanging in the rear there. So it can be just as simple as a blank wall. You could just add a little plant. Once again, plant on an ironing board. Nobody need know. It's just like a little bit of greenery, maybe a little artwork, or I love a candle. I just think it's a really beautiful touch, a little lit candle, but it does not have to be fancy. It does not need to be expensive, but it's nice for it to be on brand. So think about that as well.
Yeah. I want to circle back to when we talked about setting your intention for the meeting. The lighting of a candle is a lovely habit to get into, if you like, or process or whatever, to light a candle and set an intention when you light the candle. So it's a beautiful way for you to actually stop and be still prior to your meeting. So just circling back to that first general tip of getting into the headspace, a candle can do that. And it's so beautiful, flickering in the background.
I love it. And I do it for that exact reason. And also it's just like a really nice sensory thing for you as well.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Calming candle, especially if you choose a beautiful scent that's really calming. Yeah, double whammy benefits.
Yeah. So if you're working from, say, an iMac and you really are in a fixed spot and you can't control the background, you can try some of the filters. Like sometimes there's the blur filter, which I find that a little distracting, especially if the background is really messy. You can still see that it's a chaotic background with the blur.
Yeah.
And also you could try like a green screen effect. You could try an image. Honestly, though, this depends on you and your hair. Can I just say about hair? Because if you know what I look like, I've got curls. I've got quite a bit of frizz. I've always got a halo of hair. And I think that kind of green screen effect does not work very well for me. Some people are really lucky. They can really get away with it. And I have seen amazing backgrounds before. Like it looks like a studio. And I've
been fooled.
I know. Where are you? That looks so amazing.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it's just an image. It's a green screen. But you can buy green screens as well, just really quite affordably. And they're just pop-up green screen type of things. So there's things that you can do and just try to make a little bit of an effort. You could even have like a folding screen behind you.
Yeah.
And it could have fabric on it, or it could be just a rattan, like a natural cane or whatever it is. Like there's options out there. And we might be laboring on this point just a little bit, but it feels important to us as designers to have that aesthetic kind of worked out when we go into a meeting. It just up levels the whole tone of the meeting.
100%. It's so important to me. The lighting has to be right. The background has to be clean and clear. I think the key is not messy, not too much going on, unless that's your brand, of course.
Yeah, it might be like you're an amazing illustrator as part of your design service and you have that really beautiful, colorful, bright pops of color and you know, that would be so cool.
So on point.
Yeah.
So I think that's the key. Make sure whatever you're doing is on brand. And it's so important that they're not distracted. So even if you've got this beautiful, bold, wild look and feel and aesthetic to your brand, just be mindful to maybe be a little bit abstract with it. Crop it down, if you like, to have something singular but bold, but not distracting, because what can happen is the person who you're in a meeting with can be just so taken by what they're seeing and they're not concentrating on what you need them to concentrate on. So we've found that the cleaner the background, the better, the more they'll focus on what you are saying and what you need from them. So just bear that in mind.
There's also settings that you can change. So I was talking about the green screen effect and all that sort of thing. You would have to do that within settings, but there's also some little lighting settings that you can do. There's little kind of touch-up face kind of filters. There's hilarious lipstick that you can put on in Zoom. I do not recommend it. Just make sure that you're really happy with all those things as well. And you know how Don said, I think you said before, just make sure something's clean, but I'm not sure if you said just make sure that your little camera's clean.
Oh, I didn't say that. Good tip.
Yeah, because I don't know, I must be a bit of a slob and I must touch the camera part of my laptop all the time because whenever I go into Zoom, I have to give it a little wipe over with just like lens cleaner or like the same stuff that I use for my glasses, a little cloth, because it looks like I've got a smear of Vaseline over the screen.
Which could be like a filter in itself.
That's what they used to do back in the day.
But let's avoid that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another thing is have a backup plan for tech failures. Like maybe you'll do a phone dial-in instead. So that's a good thing to get in an intake form, their phone number, just in case.
So good. Yeah.
Yes, and have a canned email ready to go, like a template email ready to go. So you can just copy and paste if something's happened, if you're running late or if you've just had a big storm and the Wi-Fi is down, whatever it is.
Yeah, even if the tech fails and you need to get them to get on the phone, having that text ready to go as well. Get out ahead of it. We love being proactive. So have that as a system and have it set somewhere that you can access really easily and really quickly so that you are on top of it and you're unflappable. That's what we want. We want you to be completely confident and unflappable.
Yeah. So we've got some tips for in-person meetings too. And now these don't happen as much anymore, but
wish they did.
They can be lovely. If you've never done them, and you've got local clients, they can be so lovely. And one of our incredible members of the Academy, she shared the other day that she sets up her meetings so that they can actually choose from a range of cafes and other locations within her area when they're booking in.
It's a big city.
Cool.
I love that. She said it's a big city, so that they don't have to worry about commute and travel time and all of that. She has 4 or 5 options or something. And when they book a time, they book a place. And so it's like so incredibly thoughtful. That client would already feel seen and heard just because they have a choice around that. So love it. Love it so much.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you don't have a dedicated office or meeting space, you can absolutely meet at a cafe. A lot of larger cities will have places where you can meet. You can book a meeting place, like book a boardroom for an hour or so. That can be really helpful. Some libraries have really cool meeting spaces as well. Like they're really high-tech kind of libraries. We've got a library like that in Newcastle where we're from, which is really beautiful meeting space. So there's options.
Lots of options. Hotels have boardrooms.
Yeah.
So just check them out. You can actually come across as the real pro when you're meeting in places like that.
Yeah. And I really love those group working places where they are really suitable for designers as well. They have that kind of designery feel. So just scope it out, make sure that it reflects you and the kind of image that you want to put across as well. And meet anywhere that's convenient. But you'll probably most likely be meeting at their place of business.
I would.
Yeah.
That's my choice.
I love it.
I like to go into the place of my client. I like to understand the culture. I like to see how it all unfolds from reception or front door right through to the space that the person that we're dealing with works. So it's great. And you might not get to have that sort of nitty-gritty experience, but even just the front door through to their boardroom or through to their meeting room, it gives you a sense of their culture. And I find any intel we can get on our clients, the better. The more, the better. We want as much information because that all of those little touch points, those connection points are telling. And for us to really fulfill a brief, really understanding our clients is so important. So yeah, that's actually our preference.
It is.
Over any other place is to meet at our clients.
For example, you might be meeting with them to discuss a website build, and then you get there and the signage is terrible and there's this terrible flyer leaflet thing on the front counter, and you were confused because there was no directional signage and you weren't sure which one, which was the office,
and
like where am I supposed to go? So
you
get so much more intel and like the whole brand experience, which we know is so much more than the logo and it's so much more than just the collateral. It's like, how is this company, how are they presenting themselves as a brand?
Exactly. And Kris and I like to do a little surprise and delight occasionally, depending on the scope of works, depending on the client. And if you actually have exposure to their business and all of those things that Kris just highlighted then, it's easy to do a surprise and delight because you can say, well, when I was at your office, I noticed this thing. Or even just listing future services. I was at your offices, I noticed you needed that signage done, or I noticed there was no wayfinding signage or whatever. So I recommend that we look at signage down the track. They will feel so seen and so heard because you're actually taking it above and beyond just by observing. So equally to listening, when you go to your client's place of business, we want you to observe. Actively listen and actively observe what's going on around you. Where are there possibilities to add future projects and more connection down the track with this client?
Yeah. So obvious benefits for meeting at the client's place of business. What we recommend is asking for permission to record the meeting. So you can do this on your phone, or you could do it if you've got, like, we use software that records and transcribes immediately. That's Descript. But it would just be really helpful so that you can focus and you can explain that to them.
Yeah.
This is so we can just be really present, we can focus, we can just have a chat, and then we can get a summary later. I can transcribe it later and get all the key words that we're using. So that can be really helpful.
We have never had anyone say no.
No.
Never. So don't be afraid. Usually when we meet in person, people tend to think, oh, I can't ask to record this because I'm meeting in person. It's imperative that you record when you're in person because there are so many more distractions for you.
Yeah. Speaking of distractions, I just wanted to circle back to, we were talking about meeting at cafes and that sort of thing. Just try and pick a cafe and a time slot that is going to be as kind of calm as possible. So you wouldn't be booking the lunchtime slot. You wouldn't be booking the busy morning breakfast slot. You'd be maybe that 11 o'clock morning time, maybe around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, depending on when they shut. And also just scope out the location beforehand and think, which is the best spot for me to sit with this client? And can I book that table? If you can, book it. So we always met at a cafe that had a carpeted section, and it was a really good spot for meetings because it wasn't as noisy and you could focus a little bit more and you could get a little cozy corner. I really highly recommend you think about that. You don't want to have too many distractions.
Yeah, absolutely. And another pro tip, pay for your client's coffee.
Yeah.
Make sure you offer to pick up the tab.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Just one thing, though, I wouldn't recommend for cafe meetings is doing presentations. I wouldn't be presenting a logo, something really important where you really do need focus and you do really need to not be distracted yourself, and you don't need your client to be distracted.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And speaking of distractions, if you're sharing your screen, position yourself adjacent to your client. And don't have anything super critical to share on your screen because you can't control the lighting. So if you're wanting to share, make sure you're positioned in a really beautiful way so that the client can see everything nice and clearly. And like Kris said, those all important critical presentations. Don't be doing that in a cafe. There's way too many distractions going on.
Yeah. So what Dom was talking about there is like if you're positioned directly opposite a window, if your monitor, your screen is facing a window, you're going to have massive glare situations. So you're trying to think about those sorts of situations as well.
Yes.
Where am I going to position myself when I sit down here so that there's going to be minimal glare on my screen? So little things like that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would just be frustrating and annoying for everybody.
Do a recce.
Yeah.
Go and have a coffee, sit down in the space that you think you're going to meet with your client. Like that beautiful Academy member that she's got 4 or 5 spots. I'm sure she's been to all of them. She's scoped them out. Book the best table you can, all of those things. Get out ahead of it so that you know what to expect. The worst thing about having a meeting in a public place is anything that is unexpected, and that is a time suck.
It is.
You don't need any time sucks, so you want to be across that. And on that, build in a bit of a buffer because there will be time sucks. That meet and greet, that sit down, decide on your coffee. The wait staff will bring their drinks to the table. There'll be lots of little interruptions that add up to a chunk of time. So just be mindful of that and allow for that in your meeting time.
Yeah, definitely. Good point. All right, now let's run through the different types of meetings. So we mentioned that we had 6 different types of meetings, and we'll get into a little bit of specifics about what to expect, how to prepare for those kind of meetings.
Okay, well, let's dive in. The first one we want to chat to you about is discovery calls. Yay! You have a discovery call booked in. Are you excited or just like, what am I going to do now?
These can be super nerve-wracking, really, like for anybody, even somebody who's been doing it for years and years and years, they can still be nerve-wracking, especially if it looks like a client that, oh gosh, I really want to work with this client. This is an amazing client. The dream client.
The dream client.
Yeah.
Let me just compose myself, shall we?
Yes. Yes.
That's it. So the client has filled in your intake form and has booked the meeting. And our main aim here is to make that client feel seen and heard and also get enough information to put together an accurate quote. That's what the discovery call is all about.
Yes.
And a juicy proposal with all the right selling points, which we cover in the Academy.
Yes, we do.
It's a big part of the Academy, actually. Yeah. But that's the intent. So there's our intention.
Yes.
We know what we want to do from the outset of this meeting.
Yeah. You really want key intel. What Don said about having that really juicy proposal with the right selling points, that is key. The words that you extract from this session are going to help you sell the proposal because you're going to have the right goal language and the right aspirational language because you're tapping into what the client wants.
And you're mirroring them.
Yeah.
Remember that really active listening allows you to gather some of that information and speak their language and mirror that back to them so they feel really seen and heard. We've said that multiple times today, but that's the key, right? Everyone wants that. Everyone wants to be seen and heard.
Yeah, and a bit of mindset stuff. Remember that, we said this before, remember the client is already looking for someone to help them. They're not your client yet, but they are very, very close to being your client. They're a potential client. And really, that person is you. That person is you who they want to work with because otherwise they wouldn't have gotten on the call.
Yeah. Remember, you are the prize.
Yeah. They actually want to talk to you. So that's something to ground yourself. They actually want to talk to me. They really want to talk to me. Yes. Yes, they do.
That's it. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, this type of call, we suggest that you allow approximately 1 hour for this type of call because you are gathering that really essential intel. So it might feel like a really big investment of your time. However, form only kind of information where they just fill in a form may not provide you the full picture and may result in you underestimating or in the actual scope of works or underestimating the complexity of the project, which results in underquoting and you getting approval on something that you're like, oh man, the goalposts are really in a different spot.
Yeah, there's nothing like a meeting and never underestimate the power of a face-to-face meeting. And that can be via Zoom as well. Like there is a little edge, I think, with meeting in person, but yeah, just going off a form, like getting them to fill in an extensive form, it isn't the same.
It's
honestly,
just not the same. And we assume that everybody has the ability to write and articulate things with clarity, and it might not be their strength.
No.
And so you might get a form with single word answers. and they really don't know how to give you more information. That's it. That's all they've got. It's the best that they can do. But when you have a conversation and you can eke that information out of them and they talk about the thing that they're most passionate about with joy, well, it comes quite naturally. But they probably wouldn't be able to sit and write that alone.
Yeah.
So that's why we find that form only, and I'm sort of doing air quotes here if you could see me, form only, it's just never enough. We've found it's never enough.
Yeah. And form only, you can't pick up on body language and you get cues about that. You see firsthand how the client is responding to questions you're asking.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate the power of body language. And you're being a detective. You're unraveling the clues about what's important to them and what's important to their business and how you can help them to do that.
Yeah. Now, if it isn't possible to have a face-to-face, in-person, via Zoom or whatever, the next best option is a phone call.
Yeah.
Speaking to them will give you those clues as well. You won't have the body language clues, but you'll be able to hear in their voice because we're really actively listening, and you'll be able to tell, and they will be able to articulate in a conversation their deepest desires and their biggest concerns. So it allows you to unveil really any additional insights that just bubble to the surface in conversation.
Talk less, listen more. That's the key.
Yeah, that's the key.
So if you want to understand discovery calls in a little bit more detail, we have done a couple of podcast episodes on discovery calls. We also do run through this whole process step by step in the Design and Prosper Academy. But yeah, do check out the podcast episodes that we've done as well.
Yes. So the podcast episodes we've done are way back when, episode 30.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. A high-end brand designer, how to structure a discovery call. And the other one to check out is episode 52, nailing your sales discovery calls. So check those out.
Yeah.
Okay. Our second meeting type is proposal meetings. All right. These are important meetings. This is where you want minimal distractions and you really want to have your client's full attention.
This is an optional one. This is an optional meeting. We've got to just say that because some of you will not want to do this.
Yeah.
No matter how much we convince you to do it, you're probably not going to do it. Donna's really good at doing proposal meetings. I'm not so good at doing proposal meetings. And we have converted with both ways, but there is that extra level of conversion, I do believe, with a proposal meeting.
Yeah,
but
I do too.
It can be a scary meeting. It's scarier than the first meeting.
Absolutely, because what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about money.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about what the value of the work is, the value of the transformation you are offering.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like why I enjoy doing these meetings, because we get to talk about that transformation and we get to talk about the aspirations the client has and how we are going to be able to deliver that and how much it's going to cost them. So that freaks a lot of designers out. We get it. Talking about money is really scary. And often the go-to is just put the proposal together and with your eyes closed, press go on the contract and the proposal and hope for the best. But when you have the courage to do these meetings, we really love the high level of transparency that comes from them. And the clients really appreciate you being a grown-up business person who is happy to talk about money. So, yeah, it is a bit of a strategic move.
It is. And really, you should have talked about money in that previous meeting anyway. That should have already been on the table. This shouldn't be a big surprise. This shouldn't be like, oh my God, I'm falling off my chair. What is this price? It should be like they should already have an awareness from all the previous touch points of roughly how much the investment is to work with you.
Yeah.
So really all you're going to do in this meeting is you're going to share the screen. You're going to be really enthusiastic and excited, and you're going to run through your beautiful proposal. And it's going to be like a presentation. You're just going to go page by page. Depending on the format, it might be a long scroll. We use Dubsado for our proposals. We've taken our proposals to the next level by using Search and Grow, which is a beautiful template company for Dubsado. There's a few out there, a few different companies, but oh my goodness, it just takes it to the next level. But the structure of our proposal we share in the Academy. It is a really major module for us because we want you to have a proposal that actually converts. Yep. It's a powerful selling tool.
It is a powerful selling tool. Another tip, anticipate questions.
Yeah.
They are going to ask questions. So have some frequently asked questions on the ready. Have your answers ready. Have some examples ready to go. But think about your client particularly and what it is that they have on their plate and the problems that they have. And think about ways you can actually meet them where they are at and speak to their pain points.
Yeah. What do they need to overcome as a business and a brand? And you can flip those and turn them into goals. Now, the goals section of a proposal is one of the most important sections. And I think it's an important factor in converting because it gets them really excited.
Yeah.
They're like, ooh, that sounds like an amazing goal. And this brand is going to help me do that. So you should have established the goals via the previous 2 briefs that you've done. So the initial touch point brief and then the in-person or over Zoom meeting brief, the discovery call brief. So really you're just mirroring back in this beautiful proposal. And then you're able to also run step by step through what happens next, the process that's going to unfold. And it becomes such an exciting journey that they want to be a part of. They're like, I just can't not be a part of this. This is where I'm heading now.
Yeah. It's got my name on it.
I'm yes to this. Yeah.
That's exactly right. It has their name on it.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what I want. I've been asking for this. That's the transformation I want.
Yeah.
That they are the goals that I want to achieve. And here is this designer sitting in front of me saying that they can make it happen. Yes, please. Where do I sign?
It really gets them excited.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting meeting.
Yeah,
So it's a strategic move if you feel confident to do it. And just got to say, if you are incredibly shy as a designer, shyness can be overcome over time just with practice. But if it isn't shifting, maybe you've been doing this for 5 years and it's like, this is just not where my joy is. I love design. I love being behind the scenes. You can hire an account manager. You can hire a salesperson to do this for you.
Absolutely.
They can run your meetings. They can run this proposal meeting.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. A lot of business models are set up like that.
Yeah. Delegate people.
Yeah.
All right. Our third meeting type is a brand strategy meeting, sometimes called a brand strategy workshop, depending on your business model.
So we recommend taking ownership of this. Give it a unique name. What is your workshop going to be called, or what is this session going to be called?
Yeah.
Make it aligned to you and your brand. And that gets people excited as well. And that's also something that is a really big selling point in that proposal meeting. Once you sign off on the dotted line, we're going to book in this amazing workshop session and we're going to get deep into your brand. And what do people love to talk about? Themselves.
Yeah.
And then they get to talk about themselves for a good hour, sometimes 90 minutes. So we actually do schedule this meeting as a 90-minute meeting because this meeting is actually on the books.
Yeah.
This is when you've been paid a really good chunky deposit. We like 50% upfront is non-refundable.
Yeah.
And then they get to book in this brand strategy meeting.
Yeah. They love it. This is a collaborative meeting. So they love that they get to be a part of the direction for their brand. And this is where all of that magic happens.
Yeah.
Now, we've worked with clients who are great in these brand strategy workshops where we're getting gold and we're getting insight and the words are coming so beautifully and easily. And because for Kris and I, when we create a brand, the words are everything.
Oh, yeah.
The words are our seeds. And having this really gorgeous creative conversation can, for some people, happen easily, and for others, not so easy. So really pay attention to the type of person you are sitting with in this strategy session. You may need to take the lead a little bit more. You may need to actually seed some of the words and thoughts for them to get their passion flowing, and or allow them to go crazy and just listen. So just be prepared to work out the personality of your client and be flexible in your approach based on that, because no two clients are the same.
Yeah.
And we can't expect all clients to be awesome creative collaborators. Some of them just won't be. And that's okay.
Yeah.
They have a vision, but they just need your help to eke it out.
Yeah. Some of them just might not be very experienced in business, or they haven't gone that deep with their business. They don't have the answers to the deep brand strategy questions, which is problematic. It is a problem if a client doesn't really understand those aspects of their business, but that's not your responsibility. It's
No.
not. So, yeah, like Don said, sometimes you have to be a bit more of an authority in the meeting and actually suggest things, put words into their mouth, essentially.
Yeah.
And then they can change it later. They can approve this. All the information that's been taken in this, you can get them to approve it later, and they have a chance to tweak it and change it, add things to it later on.
Exactly. So allow it to be a creative process.
Yeah.
That's the pro tip for brand strategy meetings.
Yeah.
Allow it to all unfold and have fun. Brand strategy meetings should be so much fun.
Yeah. Exactly. It really should.
Yeah.
You should feel really energized after it. Even though it's a 90-minute meeting, you should feel quite energized after it and not defeated and deflated and like, oh my goodness, what was that?
Yeah.
Yes.
And just an overall pro tip for all of the meetings, for every single meeting you do, so just another tip to add on to general tips, is just to pay attention to how you feel after your meetings. I want you to really understand what meetings do for you and how you are at the end of meetings. And then think about straight. So if you are flat, like Kris has just outlined then, what do you need to do to change that? Think about strategies to make sure that you get to the end of your meetings and you feel energized and not sucked dry. So there are tips and things that you can do for when you are feeling like sucked dry. Prep is the answer. Really understanding who you are in a meeting and how you feel at the end of the meeting means you need to put some things in place before the meeting. So it might be make sure you're hydrated, make sure you have water on the ready or a cup of tea, make sure that the temperature of the room is great, make sure that your posture is good. All of those things. Meetings can be draining. So, yeah, just wanting to add to our general tips.
Yeah, make sure the time of day is right for you as well, because that can be the problem.
Yeah.
It could be the culprit for everybody. Maybe they're not answering questions because they're really tired. It's at the end of the day.
Yes. Well, Kris and I, we've done masterclasses. Usually our masterclasses where we are on fire are the morning masterclasses.
Yeah.
We've done late night masterclasses for our beautiful UK audience and people on the other side of the world where we thought, well, we'll do that. We'll do a later one for everybody. We're flat as a tack.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting the best out of us. So we figured, well, we're actually better to do a recording because at least then the people are getting the best of us rather than these two tired, flat as a tack people. So be mindful of that and adjust accordingly.
Yeah. Apologies if you've been in one of those meetings with us before.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. The fourth type of meeting that we wanted to talk about today is the presentation meeting. Now, this one is the culmination of all your meetings. It is a very, very important meeting that you need to get right. And we have a whole module dedicated to this meeting and the way that you present it. We think that presenting your work in a meeting is essential. So we were giving a few outs with some of the other meetings.
Yeah.
This one, we don't recommend you skip.
No.
We don't recommend you just send off your work to the client.
Yeah. Ever. We really are firm on this one.
Yeah,
So
and we have had a very high level of conversion with our presenting of one concept
Yep.
for decades, right?
Yep. We've got a podcast on that. It's podcast number 8, How to Present One Concept with Confidence. So check that out. But it all boils down to this meeting.
Yeah.
This is quite literally, like Kris said, the only essential meeting where we will sort of jump up and down and say, you must, because of the conversion, right? And you need to be present and you need to take them through step by step the concept and the rationale and unveil the work that you've prepared for them and arrive at that beautiful result and share in that as well. You need to share in the joy.
Yeah.
You know, we've got testimonials where people from the academy who have used our presentation format for their meetings where their clients have ended in tears. We've had clients end in tears.
Yeah.
You want to be a part of that, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to miss that. That's the joy, that when you've really answered a brief so succinctly, so beautifully, and you get to see firsthand your client's response to that. I mean, I don't want to be missing out on that.
No way.
I want to be a part of that.
Gosh, nothing more torturous than sending off a presentation and waiting for a response.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
I'm like, do they like it or not or what? Or yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And honestly, you'll take it to the next level if you present in person and you let your online presentation, your slide deck, do the talking. So you keep it really simple. You don't let it outshine the brand. So you're not allowing your brand to outshine this client's new brand or this new whatever they're getting. And you have key points on screen so you can run through those key points. We also recommend that you always present with a written rationale that you give to the client afterwards. You can email that or pop it into their portal immediately afterwards, but you're referencing that. And it's such good intel, and it allows you to speak so eloquently about the solution and really unpacking the deep level of meaning that the solution has. So you're just going one by one through each page, and you're doing the slow reveal, and it's a beautiful process. And then you're building up. That's the key to a presentation.
That's the key. And we go into such granular detail with this inside the Academy. It is one of the tools that we are so incredibly proud of, and the testimonials that flood in around our presentation template it's just insane. And the way that we package a presentation, we're just so proud of it. So if you want in on that, come and join the Academy, because you can have access to that too. This is where the power is, right? This is where you get that full-bodied yes to work that you have created, and that's what we want for you. So
yeah, it's a concept selling system. You need a concept selling system, essentially.
Yeah. We got it for you.
Yeah.
So that's presentation meetings. Okay. So next we have our work in progress meetings, our WIP meetings.
Yeah. So these are just quick little meetings in between major milestone meetings. So you might not have any of these, but you just need to have a little booking form. We like to have one on our client portal ready to go for those little, like a 20-minute kind of meeting or a 15-minute meeting, whatever you prefer, just so that you can clarify things. Maybe there's a point that wasn't quite eked out on a brief and you just need a little point clarified. You might need to quickly meet another key decision maker, for example. So you just have all these little extra meetings potentially throughout the process.
Yeah. And just limit the time of these. And maybe you might even, if you've got a really problematic client who is taking on a little bit too many of these meetings, maybe if we have questions, we'll ask the client to book in a meeting. We don't like our clients taking liberties with these meetings on our client portal board. So just be mindful of that. Be mindful of what you've quoted and how much time you've allocated to project management and that kind of thing.
Yeah, you could use that language actually. You could say, because we have in our client portal board, we have a link to a 60-minute meeting and we have a link to a 20-minute meeting. But we say, if we ask you to book in a 20-minute meeting, use this link. So it's like, it's not just book a meeting.
No, just book a meeting. Yeah.
We'll ask you to. And then you can do it because it's for our benefit. Totally.
For our benefit.
Yeah.
That's right. So again, we are the lead, we are the guide, and we are in control. And so it's all about language. It's all about framing it. And even with our 60-minute meeting, we actually say something along the lines of, we aim to only be about 30 minutes, but we'll block off 60 minutes and allow for that. But we'll get you in and we'll get you out as quickly as possible so that the client knows that we're all about efficiencies inside meetings. We just can't stand wasting time in meetings.
No.
It's not just a chat session.
So work in progress meetings are going to be essential for those of you who have retainer clients, so monthly recurring revenue clients. And they're going to be essential for those of you who have a very big project that needs to be broken down across months. Like it might be like a 6-month long project, like a very large project and you need those regular milestone meetings to see a check-in. Where are we up to? What's happening? And also with your retainer clients, you need to just keep things rolling and keep the momentum going. And so these little WIP meetings will help with that. So this is what you need to do, lovely client. I need to have that by then. It's just like a little check-in and reminder. Even if you have your portal and all those sort of reminders on there, it's just can be good to check in, see where they're at, and make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Yep, love it. Okay, that brings us to our very last type of meeting.
Yes.
Production meetings.
Yes.
So there's 6. Wow, we got there.
Yeah. So these are generally quick meetings, your production meetings. So this is when you're talking about printing, you might be talking about colors. It might be a meeting where you need to get the client to approve Pantone colors, for example, or you might be picking out signage vinyl or whatever it is. So these are production meetings to make sure that that part of the process is going to go really smoothly. So you might be taking over some proofs, some printed proofs to them, for example. So these tend to be in-person meetings, but you don't want to have a really long meeting. It needs to be quick and efficient.
Short and sharp.
Yeah, short and sharp, but it can benefit from an in-person meeting from time to time.
Yeah, definitely, like Kris said, for samples and things like that, when we're wanting to show things and get sign-off and things like that. So,
yeah. So that's all the meetings.
Yeah.
All 6 of them. So obviously some of them are more intense than others. Like the production meeting's not going to be terribly stressful.
No.
and intense.
It might be. Sometimes I've had a stressful production meeting, but
well, you have to
that's
listen.
a different. That's a let's calm the waters meeting.
Yeah, well, you'll have to listen back to some previous episodes of ours where we've done actually just the previous 2 episodes of ours. If you haven't checked out those, you really must. If you're doing print design, check out those 2 episodes. We did a part 1 and a part 2 all about print production. So we share lots of stories about print in there and the kind of meetings that you'd have as well. Yeah, they're good meetings to have, like just to make sure that I do like to get a client, if possible, to see the Pantone color and the swatch book in person.
I do too.
Just to avoid any confusion,
100%.
like with screens and things. It's like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
We've been there, done that. It can be pretty stressful if a client has misinterpretation, I guess, of the color, or they're thinking that they're going to get something different because of what they've been seeing on screen, if their screen hasn't been calibrated correctly or whatever. So yeah, that's a whole different episode, but go back and listen to those. 139 and 140.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have got some tips for dealing with nerves because we know the nerves. We've had the nerves, and sometimes you might just be having a bit of a wobbly day as well. Like
absolutely, you might not have slept, and then it's like, the last thing I need to do now is deal with a problematic client or a brand new client. I don't know them. I've got to be my best. I've got to be switched on, boom, boom, boom. Or it might be a new client and you want to be your best. You want to be so switched on fire, effervescent, beautiful. Woohoo, look at me. I'm so excited to be here. And it's the last thing that you want to be doing. It's like, I just want to go and nap. So there are things that can actually trigger nerves as well, like that. You get super nervous because you're just not feeling on top of your game.
Yeah, we have been there. We definitely have. So we mentioned lighting a candle before and setting your intention. Maybe you could do a little quick meditation or just a simple breath work practice. There's so many out there. Just Google or YouTube. Oh, so many. Maybe even just a really quick yoga session, just like a few sun salutations, just to get grounded back into your body, because I think nerves, we're in flight or fight, all the adrenaline pumps into our limbs and that sort of thing. So anything that you can do to just start to just settle your body down.
Yeah.
But if you're feeling flat, like Don mentioned, because that's a different opposite kind of thing, isn't it? Like just maybe even something that energizes you. So for example, it might be dancing, like pop your headphones on, have a bit of a dance beforehand, or do some star jumps. Like what is it?
Squats, whatever. Dancing does it for me.
Yeah.
Bit of a dance, bit of a sing. And EFT tapping works for both. Works if you're nervous, you've just got that nervous energy. Works if you're flat. All the things. We love EFT. That's great. Just Google EFT tapping for whatever it is you're feeling. There will be oodles of options there for you.
Yeah, because it might be just that you want to do an EFT tapping session. We love Brad Yates on YouTube. There's so many out there though. There's not just Brad, but it might be just that you want to do purely nerves, or it might be that you're not feeling good enough. It might need to go deeper, or it might be that you've got imposter syndrome and you're about to go into a discovery call with imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what you need to tap on. Yeah, I really feel like that can shift. That EFT is a real pattern disruptor, and it stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and it can be really beneficial for those negative emotions like that. Yeah.
Love that it is truly a pattern disruptor. I love that reminder that that's exactly what it does. The other thing that you could do if imposter syndrome is present, affirmations. Like have some affirmations on the ready just before your meeting. Have a bit of a power chant. Like everybody loves me. I am the right person for this. Whatever it is, have that power conversation with yourself and really sort of give yourself a talking to. And affirm that you are the right person for this job.
Yeah, pop a couple of affirmations up on your screen, little Post-it notes as well, and just as a little reminder to ground yourself throughout. And sometimes, even if I can't convince myself to be brilliant, like I'm just like too flat or whatever, then I can just go, well, maybe I don't have to be brilliant. All I'm going to be doing is asking questions and listening.
Yes.
Maybe I don't have to be this incredible, sparkling being.
Exactly. Remember, it's just a chat.
Yeah.
Especially with those meetings earlier on in the relationship, it can feel so scary. It can feel like life and death. And oh my gosh, there's so much weighing on this chat. But emphasis on chat. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're having a chat. So just remember, just pull it back. It's okay. It's fine. It's just a conversation. Ask questions, actively listen. That's your job. That's your job. For the next 30 minutes or an hour, it's your job to listen.
Yes.
Ask the key questions and that's it. So there's not a lot being asked of you, really.
That's right.
Yeah.
So then we wanted to talk about follow-up after meetings. It's really important to follow up. We like the saying, the fortune is in the follow-up. Right? So summarizing the meeting can be really helpful. So you could almost do it like meeting minutes. This is what we covered. This is what we discussed. These are the decisions that were made. These are the action steps that we've agreed to, or these are the action steps that need to happen. And all of that can come into the portal. You can pop that into the portal. And we mentioned it before, recording the meeting, like whether it's on your phone or just using the Zoom record function or whatever it is, and transcribing it, because it can be so helpful to have that summary afterwards.
Yeah.
We have been experimenting with some apps, and there is the Zoom one that's built in. We have been playing with Otto, OTTO, and that's okay. Like, I've been quite impressed with that. It does get some details completely wrong, but as always, it's AI and it's not human. But yeah, have an experiment with that. We haven't used Google Meet, and I'm curious to know how their summary is going, especially with Google and their AI stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
Like we have been enjoying using Gemini.
Let us know, actually, if you use Google Meet, please send us a DM. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to know, because you do get not stuck, but you do get committed to apps and software that you become familiar with.
Yeah.
Because you start to understand it, you understand the nuance, you understand how to troubleshoot, and you sort of get really conditioned and comfortable, right? But there might be better ways out there. So we'd be really fascinated if you are listening to this and you're like, wow, I use Google Meet and love how it transcribes a meeting. We'd love to know.
Yes, please do let us know, because sometimes we feel like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But yeah, it would be great to know if we're missing out on something wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do let us know.
So the last thing that we wanted to talk about in this episode was what to do if a meeting doesn't go well. Because it can happen.
It can happen.
Yeah.
It can happen. Yeah.
So if you get any kind of criticism, what to do?
Yeah.
Like if it's in a presentation, or even if it's like at the very beginning stage in a discovery call and you talk about budget and price and you don't get a good response, or they're like, how dare you charge that kind of thing. Like, that's a very worst case scenario, everybody. I don't think that
it's never happened to us.
It's never happened to me.
But it might have happened to you out there. It could happen. Yeah. We hear about it happening, actually.
We do.
We've heard the most bizarre stories that come from meetings where people are unprofessional. They're really quite rude, and it's so deflating, I think. It's so sad and deflating. We've had designers talk to us about meetings where we're quite frankly shocked at the behavior of some people. So we absolutely believe, though, with all our hearts, it's all about your entire process. If you have a watertight process from the initial touchpoint form right the way through, you will weed out those type of clients. They won't even get to have those meetings with you, because you'll have flagged them, you'll have thanked them, and you'll have passed them over, and they won't even be in your ecosystem. And we strongly believe when you have a business that is built with really strong systems and procedures where boundaries are ever present and honoured, that you're not going to have those problematic clients. And I think that's why Kris and I can very confidently say we rarely have those really problematic clients, because we've built a business model and systems and a framework, basically like a fortress,
Yeah.
to make sure they're not in there. We don't want them in there, but we know that they do exist. So some tips around handling these type of people are, A, for you to stay professional.
Yes, always stay professional.
Yeah.
So stay really calm.
Yeah.
Don't be reactive. Avoid getting defensive or getting overly emotional.
So hard. Easier said than done.
It is hard. It is hard. But just, okay, I've just heard something I really don't want to hear. Okay, take a breath. Just take a moment. And then what we think is the best thing to do is that active listening thing again, and then reflect back. So clarify. So repeat basically what they've said so that you're sure that you've gotten it right. And what happens when you reflect something critical back to somebody that they've said is sometimes they go, oh, oh, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to say it like that, or whatever it is. So it can be confronting for them to hear it, but you're just stating facts, right? You're just saying, oh, okay, so you're finding this, this, and this. So you're reflecting back and you're mirroring back essentially in a really calm way.
Yeah, that's it. So you're asking them to clarify and you're not getting caught up in the emotion of it. Often just reflecting that back to the person, they go, oh gosh, no, that wasn't my intention. So asking some really powerful questions like that can really quell the situation.
Yeah, you might be dealing with a really blunt, impulsive person. And then when they hear it back and go, oh, no, I didn't mean to offend you. Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm really blunt. Like that.
I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it.
Yeah, and sometimes it is going to be a bullying situation. You're going to have to set a boundary.
Yeah.
And you might actually have to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you might have to say, look, I have done exactly what was required of me to answer the brief or whatever the situation is. And it's actually a really successful, solid solution.
Yeah.
Then you'd be sort of brainstorming ways together to work it out. And it might be that there is a new brief.
Yeah.
And that requires an extra project fee and all those sorts of things. But we probably won't get right into that.
We're getting into a real problem.
That is a different podcast episode. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've probably done some podcast episodes on that.
Yeah.
So I think we'll wrap it up there. This has been a really juicy, detailed episode on meetings. Hopefully you can feel a little bit more confident going into the meetings. We know that you have to be brave to do these meetings.
Yeah.
Be brave. Mm-hmm. Please do be brave. Just
be brave. Yeah.
Trust in yourself that you've got this. You don't have to be uber confident to be able to pull off these meetings.
No, remember it's a chat, a conversation, a collaboration. You are one person asking another person a question, listening to their answers. Actively listen. That's the key. That's the key takeaway from this entire podcast.
It really is.
Yeah.
Remember, if you're looking back at the transcript, there should be a lot of them talking and barely any words of yours. Yeah.
That's right. Remember, you can say no to meetings. That's another key takeaway. And just one little circle back to if a meeting is not going well, it is your prerogative to end the meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Just say, do you know what? I'm just going to end the meeting here. I'm going to gather my thoughts and I will get back to you. Be respectful, be kind, be polite, but you can leave that meeting.
That's a really good point if you are really confronted by something in a meeting.
Yeah.
Because if you don't trust yourself to not be reactive, and honestly, I'm a pretty reactive human. Well, it depends on the situation. So, and it depends how I am, like how much sleep I had the night before and all those things that we're talking about before. Yeah. So I think that might be an actually really important way to protect you is to end the meeting and say, let's circle back.
Yeah, let's circle back.
Make it, I'll get back to you. I just need to gather my thoughts.
Yeah.
And then I'll get back to you.
Yeah, that's it. All right.
All right, everybody.
Be brave.
Yes, be brave. You can do it.
Okay, bye.